Hello, I'm Andy Harwood, co-owner of the Vaz+Harwood Real Estate Team at Keller Williams Premier Realty, and this video is to give you a high-level overview, broad strokes, of how to sell a house, at least in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities, and with how we do it on the Vaz+Harwood Team. And I want to emphasize broad strokes because everyone's situation is a little bit different. But I'm going to try to give you the general process that is true for most sellers and the key points to how to sell a house and how this whole process works. So diving in, if you're here watching this video, I'm assuming you may be looking for a realtor, and that's exactly the first step is to identify who would be a good realtor that you trust, that is a good fit for you and or your family and your house. And so congrats on starting that process. How do we start to talk to each other and see if this is a good fit for you? You can certainly call or text us or email us with an inquiry anytime, and we'll respond, and we could do a quick call if you want to. We could also schedule a listing appointment at your house right away too, if you just want to cut to the chase and have us over, because we really can't do a whole lot until we see the house. And I'll get to more of that in a second, but one thing that we do have on our team is we have a seller questionnaire that we would ask you to fill out, and it'll just capture some basic information, make sure we have the address right, and make sure that we just kind of know what points we need to address when we talk to you. So we would send over that seller questionnaire and then schedule a time to meet you at the house. And again, if you want to talk to us before having us over to your house, we can certainly do that and hop on a quick phone call or Zoom and then get that listing appointment scheduled at your house. So what do we do at the house visit? The first thing, and on a call too, either way, the first thing that we're going to want to do is not just dive into the technical process of selling your house. We're there to listen to you and to understand your unique needs and situation, and help you understand how to get successfully from A to B in this process. We're there to help you with a strategy, and that can look a little different for different people, even though a lot of the mechanical processes of getting the house sold are the same. Some people are buying another house. They want to buy another house because they've outgrown this current house, and it's time for something bigger. Sometimes it's time for something smaller. People are downsizing and they want to reduce their monthly expenses or upkeep on a house. Some people are making some kind of a lateral move, or they're just selling the house completely because maybe they got a job out of state or something like that. So our job is to identify what the pain points are in this process too, and help you with how we can be the most helpful and make this the least stressful process that we can. One thing I like to say is we cannot guarantee that buying or selling a house will be non-stressful. What we can do is we can reduce that stress by helping you understand the process, and just because we do this so much, we know potential things that can go wrong that maybe you're worried about, that we can head off before they go wrong, and just make the process as easy as we can for you, and hopefully fun. In many cases, this is a good move, and we want to make it enjoyable for you as well. So that's part of what we'll do when we meet you in person. And then we always ask to see the house. Usually we start off that way. Can you give us a little tour of the house? And a couple of purposes to that. One, just so that we can obviously we can see the house and kind of know what it is. And the other is to identify if you have any areas of concern. Is there anything that, very often our sellers are thinking about, oh, we've been using this old kitchen for so long and we were always going to renovate it. Should we do that now or should we not do that now? Or we have a bathroom that needs painting or, whatever. So we can help start with some initial consulting on this would be worth it, that's not worth it. Let's start patching in a strategy of what you might need to do that works for you. So we'll do the house tour, and then we usually sit down at the kitchen table, so to speak, and we're able to, in most cases, take a look at some comps, other houses in the neighborhood right then and there. And often I'll have this information pulled up already, so I've got a head start on it. But one thing I don't do, and I've seen other realtors do, and I don't mean to criticize anyone else in their process, but we do not come in with a list of comps and a price and all that kind of thing in some kind of a package, because if we haven't seen the house yet, we don't know, we don't really know enough to do that accurately. So I like to do it right there with our prospective sellers and see if we can figure out at least a ballpark price or range right there at the kitchen table, so to speak. And we could also, if you're pressed on time or it just works better for some reason, we can also do that back at the office, and then I can send you an email. And I also like to include generally some comps along with that. So here's a list of houses in the neighborhood that are similar, and then some kind of an analysis of, well, this one is close, but it has one more bedroom, or this has one less bathroom, or whatever might make a difference in price, so that you can see the logic of it. And we'll also ask you what you think the house might list for too, because pricing a house is not a one-way conversation, and there's no exact science to it. There's usually a reasonable range that the house could list in, and of course we want to maximize that, but we also want to make sure that we're doing it strategically for you and considering all the factors. And as much as we're experts at what we do, because we do this every day and we know real estate inside and out, you've lived there and you know things on the block and right in that local area, and probably saw some of your neighbors' houses go up for sale. So you have that hyper local knowledge that will help inform the conversation too. So we highly respect our sellers' thoughts on pricing, and that's part of the conversation and how we arrive at a number too. And we'll also be very honest with you. It doesn't actually happen very often, interestingly, but once in a while we have a seller with an unrealistic idea of what the house should sell for, unrealistically high, sometimes unrealistically low, and then we have a very pleasant conversation. But we will always be honest with you, even if you choose somebody else because you don't like what we have to say. We will be honest with you, and we'll tell you what we think the market will bear for this property. And that also may be dependent on what you do to the house before we list. Now, sometimes, and I don't know how people do it because I certainly don't live this way, but sometimes we walk into a house and we could list this place tomorrow. I mean, it's just beautiful, and even the furniture is just like, looks like it's something from a staging house. and that's always amazing. But most people, life happens, and there's either some things that need, some paint touch-ups, or something got broken by the kids or whatever. That's just normal life. And so, and occasionally we'll step into a house that needs a lot of work, and there's just, there's a lot that it'll need in order to get it listing worthy. And if this describes your situation, do not be embarrassed and do not feel like you have to clean things up to have us over or anything like that. We have stepped into every possible situation you can imagine, and we do everything with compassion and just kind of an A plus B sort of step by step process. So we're here to help you wherever you're at in the process. But I would say most sellers have a few things that either kind of need to be done or they're not sure if they need to be done or not. And our job generally is to help you to determine which things would give return on investment and be worth it to do, like painting or new carpet or whatever, and which things would not be worth it to do that would cost you too much money and time and probably not see the return on investment for that. So we'll help you with that. If your situation is you've got a lot of stuff or a lot to tackle, we can help with some strategies on how to do that too. We have seen sellers empty a house. We've given them resources to help with that and strategies to help with that too. So wherever you're at in the process, we've seen it, and we can help you get from A to B. So we're at the house. We're looking at comps. We have a price in mind. Now, where do we go from there? When you're at a decision that you want to hire us, what we do is we'll send over a listing contract. We'll ask you if we can do the listing paperwork, and if that's good with you, we're going to put in the price that we tentatively agreed on into the listing contract, and we'll send it over to you and get everything signed. And just one thing about the price before I move on to a couple of other things. We're going to check the price again before we go to market, unless we're listing this house within a couple weeks, and we're basically looking at it right now. But most of the time when we sign the listing contract, we have to put the price in. We have to put a price. But most of the time when we're doing that, it's going to be a month or a few weeks until that, or even longer, until that house gets listed. So the things that can happen is other houses might come up in the neighborhood and sell or go on the market, or something might change in the market overall. Or there might be things where you thought you were going to do some of those painting things, but just ran out of steam or time or whatever, and so we're going to do a little more as-is situation with the house, and that might affect the price. But regardless, the week of when we list the house, we're going to check the price again, check comps again, and talk to you and see if we're all still in agreement about that price or if we need to do any changes. So signing the listing paperwork, we're kind of penciling it in, and it doesn't have to lock us into that until we really go to market and we have that updated price conversation. So having the listing paperwork signed, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to, in most cases, have our staging consultant visit you. The staging consultant, she's more of a home prep coach who can help you and kind of go room by room and give you a punch list of how to arrange the furniture, what to put where, how to take this down and leave that up. This picture looks good. This one should probably go. And a lot of our sellers can do everything that the staging consultant suggests, and it's no problem. Some people can't. If it's something that becomes too much of a problem for you, time-wise, money-wise, whatever, we'll work that out with you, and we'll come to the best compromise, or pick the top things that need to be done that make the most impact and have you focus on that. So you'll stay in touch with us and the staging consultant. And that staging consultation takes about an hour, by the way. And like I said, when people hear the word stager, they think we're going to haul in all this furniture. We rarely suggest that approach. It's usually not necessary or cost beneficial, except in some circumstances, which we would talk to you about on a case-by-case basis. But the stager is really a home prep coach. And you know what it really does is it takes the pressure off our sellers, because you're going to be in this situation where You've got all the stuff of normal life around you, and it's going to come down to room by room and shelf by shelf and corner by corner. Like, what do I do? And so it's a great service that we offer and pay for. It's included along with our listing fees. It's nothing additional to you out of pocket. It'll just take the pressure off you and understand how to get the house in order. Even things like what light bulbs to put in the fixtures so they don't look all inconsistent, how to get the outside looking good, things like that. And on that topic too, this isn't exactly a part of our process, but it's an additional benefit. Is we have a lot of contractors that we can connect you with. Anybody from painters, carpet people, flooring people, cleaners, people who can do outside cleanup, weeding, that sort of garden things, that sort of thing. Almost anything that needs doing to a house in order to help it get listed and take the pressure off you. We've got somebody who we can make a referral, handyman, that sort of thing. So you can always lean on us for that. So from the time we meet you for that initial consultation and sign a listing contract, so we're working together, there's a period of time. It could be short if your process is pretty accelerated, or it could be really long. We've had it for a year where we met, we talked about listing the house, and now it's a process of getting the house ready. Different for everybody. Sometimes it's we're looking at an out-of-state job, and that's going to take a few months to get going, but we want to start the process now. And we've had people who, they needed to get the house on the market in 2 weeks, and so we just go. We can do it on almost whatever timeline you need. We just need to know what that is and start planning accordingly. I will say that sellers who have more time available, that gives you as the seller more runway and probably less stress, maybe less stress. Sometimes it's nice just to get it all done, but if you have some time in order to plan, in order to sell things that you're not going to take in the move and pack things up and all of that kind of thing, that's usually easier. So it's never too early to call us to do that listing consultation. Don't feel like you should call us a month before you want to sell the house. Call us a year before you want to sell the house. That's totally fine. And then we can connect you with our staging consultant and any of those contractors I mentioned and just help you put the pieces together. But either way, so there's this period of time where you're getting the house ready and we're planning to list. And at some point in that process, as we follow up and you do the things you're going to do to the house, it'll become clear what listing date you would like and when you want to close. We usually work backward from there, and we ask our sellers, when would you like to close on this property? Closing meaning we're out, we've handed over the keys, we've signed all the paperwork, and now it's the new buyers. And then we can work backward from there. Now, generally speaking, if we accept a contract, it will close in 30 days, kind of default. But it could be longer. It could be 45 to 60 days, sometimes even longer, or it could be shorter, depending on what's in the best interest of our seller. And the seller usually has more ability to drive what closing date they would like than the buyer. So we can kind of put it out there. The seller would like to close in this range or on this date, ideally. And then we have a pretty good chance of usually getting a buyer who will agree to that. Depending on the situation, again. So we can work backwards. If you want to sell your house closing on this date, maybe we need to be listing 30 to 45 days before that, so we have time for it to be on market for, and again, this is where it's very dependent on the type of house. If it's the type of house that is probably going to sell quickly, we may need to build in more time. Maybe we need a couple of months ahead of time to get the house on the market and probably find a buyer that will get it closed. If it's a very houses that are typically selling very quickly, 30 to 45 days is a pretty reliable range. And that can depend a lot on seasonality too, what time of year it is and what's happening in the overall market right now. Is it really hot and fast paced for sellers, or is it a little bit sluggish? Um, so we'll work backwards on a schedule, and then we're going to get photography scheduled. That's usually a very key date for our sellers, because with the photo shoot scheduled, that gives them something concrete to work toward. And what we do on the photo shoot day is we have a professional real estate company that does the photos. That's all they do is real estate, so they know how to come in and shoot everything properly, and they do a floor plan at the same time. So that's usually very helpful for our listing too. But on that photo shoot day, we do a video ourselves. So we have the photographer come, and then, or before that, we do the video. Often before, that way we can see the house, and if there's any little detail that needs a little touch, we can do that. Shoot our video so that we have YouTube, reels, all that stuff. We do a horizontal and a vertical video, so that we have all our bases covered for social media marketing. And then the photo shoot's done at similar time on the same day. So that gives you a day to work toward where the house is going to be done, cleaned, projects done, everything as good as it's possibly going to be, and we get the photos done. And we can move that photo date, so we can get that booked. And if for some reason you thought this timeline was going to work, but you need more time, we can bump it out. If I've got a day or two's notice, I can change it almost always. So that's good to know too. But it's usually very helpful for our sellers to have that date to work toward. So with the photo shoot done, we get those photos back the next business day. And then we have a little bit of marketing stuff to finish up in terms of getting them onto our website and all the places they need to be, finishing up any listing details or questions that we have about the house. And then we're able to either plan to go directly to market so the house is active, or we can do coming soon. Now, the way coming soon works is it's marketed and published on MLS, so it's out there for all the realtors and public to see. It'll go out to all the sites, Zillow and all that stuff, but it's not available for showings until the actual active date. So sometimes we like to go coming soon if it works for you and it works for the property and the particular situation. We can go coming soon and have it on the market a few days before showings are allowed. When do we like to have showings allowed? We find that usually the best strategy is to have the house go active on a Thursday or Friday. That way there's time for realtors to have a couple of weekdays to get their buyers in, and then we're close to the weekend. So if you want us to do an open house, we can do that. We recommend open houses as part of good marketing. Gets a lot of people in, and it's just a very good thing for getting more eyes on the house and more marketing out there. So if we go to market on a Monday, for example, we've got a whole week before the weekend is there, and we can do weekday open houses, but they're usually not as busy and successful as the weekend ones. So it's just better generally, unless there's some other difference in the situation, if we go to market later in the week. So often what works really well is if that photo shoot can happen on a Friday or a Monday, and then we get the photos back by Monday or Tuesday, and we can have a couple days to get our marketing in place and go coming soon for a day or two or a few days, depending on the timing that works for you. and then hit the market on a Thursday or Friday and do an open house on Saturday. And when can you expect to get an offer? Now, this is a question that is different depending on the type of house, depending on the area it's in, and what's going on in the market at that time. But there are times when it's a reasonable expectation that we'll probably get an offer or multiple offers that weekend, and that's really exciting for our sellers, and it often results in more money for the house. And I wish I could guarantee it all the time, but it's not a situation that we can engineer directly. It's reliant on the type of house it is, where it is, and what the market's doing. So other properties, and we'll try to give you a reasonable expectation of how long your type of property is taking to sell these days. But the things that affect the price of the house and how long it can take to sell, other than what we just talked about, are the price, how well the property is prepared for market, and what we do in our marketing. So the price is up to you and up to us. It's up to you ultimately, but we're giving you our professional guidance. And then the preparation of the house, we give you our professional guidance again, but then it's really up to the seller. It's not our house, so we can't go in and just start slapping paint on things. It's up to you. And then what's going on in the market is outside of all our control. That's just the sandbox we're all playing in. Generally speaking, we sell most houses within a reasonable time frame for the house and what it is and what the market's doing. If the house is not selling, and this doesn't happen very often, it's almost always related to the price. And I would much rather tell our sellers this on the front end, that it is the price. If you want to blame us, most people don't, but that's the realtor's fault. Well, it's the realtor's fault if they didn't do their marketing properly, or we didn't do an open house and we could have, or that sort of thing. But we don't leave on our team. We don't leave any stone unturned in terms of marketing. We do everything that we can and should do in social media, and it's on all the websites out there. It's everywhere. Everyone who needs to see the house is going to see it. So if it's not selling, it's a function of the price, and that can be tied into the market too. If the market's really advantageous for sellers, we have a lot more leeway on the price, and we can get away with a house that's maybe a little over where it should be because there's demand. So the supply and demand will balance out that factor. But if the market's kind of normal, or it's a little soft at the moment, maybe just based on seasonality or interest rates or whatever, the only way to get the house sold, if we're not getting the traction we need, would be to change the price. We don't have to do that very often. We try to get it right on the first time. But also, like we mentioned earlier, pricing a house is not an absolute exact science. I like to say there's not a Kelly Blue Book for houses. So we are both, you and us, are putting our heads together for that price. And some houses are very easy to price within a $5,000 accuracy, and some are not easy to price because they're very unique, or there just aren't a lot of comps around that help us get there. So then there's a chance we may just have to go on at a price that makes the most sense and see how the market responds. But in any case, we're going to get an offer at some point, or multiple offers. If it's multiple offers, we're going to put them on a spreadsheet for you to see all of the offer parameters side by side, and we send you a Google Drive folder that has the offer paperwork in it as well, so you can look over all of the offer paperwork, seeing everything that we see, and a side-by-side comparison. And we'll call a time for highest and best with your permission, and an understanding of how that process works. that will give realtors a chance to get their offers in by that deadline, and then help you make a decision on which of these offers you'd like to take. If we just have one offer, and it's a good offer, and you want to accept it or counter it, we'll help you with maybe what you could do to counter the offer, whether it's on price or a closing date or whatever other term that would make sense for that situation. And we'll get everything signed at that point. We'll have you sign the purchase agreement, and then the buyer is going to do an inspection. So they'll have an inspection contingency that will be usually 5 to 7 days is typical. Where they will hire a private home inspector, and the inspector will probably do not just a home inspection, but probably a sewer scope and a radon test. That's very common these days too. So they'll get that booked, and they have a contingency during that time too, which is called the inspection contingency. So they will be able to have their inspector go in and make sure that they're still happy proceeding with the house. It doesn't happen very often that there's a cancellation, but if there is an issue that they are asking to negotiate on, we'll help you navigate that. And we try to head off as many things up front as we can with helping you with things that you need to disclose and helping you with some pre-inspection kind of things. We usually, I didn't mention this earlier, but we usually recommend that our inspectors have a sewer scope done before going to market. Or if there's a really old furnace or even just a middle-aged furnace, we usually recommend an HVAC inspection and that kind of a thing, so that we can head off as many things as we can before the buyer does the inspection. And another thing to mention is disclosure too. Sellers should be disclosing things that may be a fault with the property, and we can help you with how that works and how to do that to help head some of these things off. But buyers do an inspection, and almost all of the time, if there is something that comes up, we can work through it, either with maybe some kind of a fix, hopefully not a big deal, or maybe a seller concession if it's needed to get the house sold, or hopefully nothing. In often cases, buyers are happy. They just did the inspection for due diligence, and we're all happy in proceeding forward. So at that point, we will move into the appraisal phase of things. It's almost never a thing to worry about if the house didn't appraise. If we think there might be a problem coming with the appraisal, we'll be talking about that earlier in the process. It doesn't happen very often, but generally it's just the buyer's lender sending an appraiser to make sure that the house is worth what the lender is lending for it, and it's kind of a rubber stamp sort of a thing. During this process of things, you'll be, after the inspection is done, so that you know for sure the buyer is moving forward, you can start calling the utility companies, arranging moving, and preparing to move. And then the buyer will do a final walkthrough, generally on the day of closing or before closing, and that'll come through as a showing request too, just like the other showings did, that you'll see. So you can make sure to have the house in order, everything ready before that final walkthrough. And then on closing day, the buyer will go to the title company and sign everything and close, and they'll get the keys from their realtor at closing, and the house is theirs, and you will be out of it by then. Sellers used to do their signing at the same time the buyers do, but that's all changed in recent years. Sellers pre-sign, and you don't even have to be here locally to pre-sign. We've had people sign remotely from out of state, even out of the country. So if you need to move earlier, you can do that. You'll generally sign everything as the seller. um, probably a week in advance, something like that, and it can be done remotely, like I said. Now, one more thing just to come back to, I didn't talk about buying and selling at the same time. So just broad strokes on that. Many people who are selling a house are buying a house either at the same time or within the same process. How does that all work? So that is going to be dependent, which strategy you use for that is going to be dependent a lot on the conversation with a lender and what makes sense for you for getting the next mortgage. Some people can afford to keep the house, keep the mortgage they've got, and go buy the property that they want. And then we can get this house on the, then they can move, they can close on that, move everything they want over there, and then we can get this house on the market and sold. If you can do that, that's the best possible way to do it. And sometimes there's a product called a bridge loan, and we can't advise you on the mortgage stuff on our end, but this is all the lender conversation. But a lot of our buyer sellers can use a bridge loan too, which just takes the equity temporarily out of this house, and it's a temporary financial product to help you buy the next one. And then we can get this on the market and get it sold. But the good news is you don't have to move twice because you've moved, and then we can just make it a lot. It makes it a lot easier. Like if you need to redo flooring or carpet or things like that. Now things are out of the house, and it's a lot easier to work on a house that doesn't have all your furniture and all your stuff of life in it. If you cannot do that, we could make an offer contingent on the sale of this house, the current house. If the market's really hot and really attractive to sellers, that's going to be great on your selling end of it, but it's going to make it very challenging to buy the next house because a lot of sellers will probably get an offer not contingent on the sale of the house. But I like our buyers to know it's an option. And hey, there are times of the year when, or maybe just times of the market when it's not that hard to do that because things are sluggish and houses aren't selling as quickly as they are at other times. So sometimes that's a process that we use is get this house ready, and we'll start looking for the next house, and then you can either get this on the market while we look for the next house, or we can find the next house and then get this on the market right away so that we're aligning those two processes. And that can absolutely work. And some people, the best option is just, unfortunately, they need to move twice. But some people have a relative they can move in with, or they can do a short-term rental, or there's someplace that they can kind of bridge the gap between getting this house on the market and sold and having that money in the bank so that they can go buy the next house and being able to do that. In some people's situation, that's just the best option. And so those are in broad strokes kind of the three approaches to how to buy and sell at the same time. But very often we're working with people who we advise, let's start working on this house, let's get our stager over, let's get this process moving, and then we'll start getting the process moving of the purchase. We'll get a search set up. We'll start looking at houses when you're ready and have your pre-approval, and the timing is there where you might be ready to make an offer. And those two processes kind of go in parallel, and we do both, and we're skilled at helping you through that, how to do all of that. Well, I'm sure there's a few things I haven't touched on, but this is generally speaking the broad strokes of how to sell a house and all the parts of that process. And please reach out to us if you have questions or you want to start a conversation. And again, I'll say it again, it's never too early. We've had people 2 years in advance say, I think I'm going to want to sell my house in a year or two. Can we have a conversation? Absolutely. And I love that because we're ahead of the game, and then we can help you early with a strategy. And we can do that with a initial conversation and or come and see the house and start helping you with the nuts and bolts of it. I hope this video was very helpful. Again, this is Andy Harwood from the Vaz+Harwood Team. Thank you so much.